Relationship. When we talk about healing a broken heart, the first step is to recognize the reality of what that actually means. Heartbreak is not some rare relationship, extraordinary phenomenon. It is part of the human condition. Every single one of us at some point in life will encounter it in one form or another. Relationship. Sometimes it comes through the loss of a loved one, sometimes through betrayal by someone we trusted deeply, sometimes when our dreams are shattered. Relationship. Or when life simply refuses to unfold the way we planned it. Relationship. To have your heart broken is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a reminder that you are alive, that you are sensitive. Relationship, that you are connected to the world in a way that makes you feel. And feeling pain, as much as we may dislike it, is a proof of being fully human. Relationship. When a heart breaks, it often shakes everything else with it. Suddenly, even the most ordinary aspects of life feel heavy. Food loses its taste. Relationship. The days feel longer and the nights become restless. You can be surrounded by people yet still feel completely alone. Relationship. This is because the heart is not just a physical organ. It is the seat of emotion, of meaning, of love, of hope. When it suffers, relationship, the entire being suffers. Modern psychology even tells us that emotional pain lights up the same parts of the brain as physical pain. Relationship. That is why when you go through heartbreak, it feels so real, so raw, as though something inside you has been torn apart. But here is the paradox. Relationship, although heartbreak feels deeply personal, it is at the same time universal. Every person you meet is carrying a story. If it is not heartbreak today, it might have been yesterday, or it might come tomorrow. Relationship. And this universality carries an important lesson. It means that we are not meant to see heartbreak as the end of our story, relationship, but as part of the shared human journey. The Quran reminds us that life itself was designed to test us. Relationship. And will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits. Relationship. But give good tidings to the patient. This verse is not merely telling us that hardship will come. It is teaching us how to interpret it. Relationship. It is showing us that pain is not random. It is part of the fabric of existence. Relationship, woven into the very design of our lives by the one who created our hearts in the first place. Now, when the heart is broken, relationship, the natural tendency is to seek escape. Some people try to numb themselves with distractions. Others chase after new attachments. Relationship, some withdraw completely. But these coping mechanisms, while they may dull the pain for a moment, rarely bring healing. Why? Relationship. Because a wound that is deep cannot be covered by a temporary bandage. You can distract yourself all day. Relationship. But when the night comes and you place your head on the pillow, the heart begins to speak again. And its voice cannot be silenced until it is listened to with care and directed towards something greater than itself. There is another truth here. Relationship. Heartbreak is often a mirror. It shows us the depth of our attachments, the weight of our expectations, relationship, and the fragility of our dependence on things outside of Allah. When that mirror shatters, relationship, the pain forces us to confront what we had built our sense of stability upon. If it was built on people, they will disappoint us. Relationship. If it was built on worldly success, it will crumble eventually. But if it is built on Allah, the one who is Al-Hayy, the ever-living Al-Qayyum, relationship, the one who never needs and never abandons, then the heart will always have a refuge, even in the darkest storm. Relationship. So when we begin a conversation on healing a broken heart with the Qur'an Salah, we must begin here. Relationship, by acknowledging that heartbreak is not the end of life, nor is it a sign of failure. It is an invitation. Relationship. It is Allah's way of telling you that your heart is capable of much more than it has known. Relationship, that its true fulfillment will never be found in the fragile hands of creation, but in the infinite embrace of the Creator. And so the question is not relationship, why is my heart broken? The real question is, where will I take this brokenness? Because in the hands of the world, relationship, it may only lead to bitterness. But in the hands of Allah, it becomes the very reason you rise. When a heart is broken, relationship, the natural question that arises is, where do I go for comfort? Friends may try to console you, family may give advice. Relationship, and time may dull the sharp edges of the pain. But there is something unique about the solace found in the words of Allah. Relationship. The Quran is not a book of abstract theology meant only for intellectual reflection. It is a living message. Relationship. Revealed precisely because human beings would face experiences like heartbreak, loss, grief, and despair. Relationship. If the Quran did not address the deepest struggles of the human soul, then what purpose would it serve? Allah calls it shif, a healing. Relationship, not just a set of rules, not just a narration of history, but an actual medicine for the heart that aches. Think about the way the Quran speaks. Relationship, when your heart feels as though it has been abandoned, you come across verses where Allah says, "And your Lord has not forsaken you," relationship, nor has He left you. When you feel overwhelmed by sadness, you find Allah reminding you. Indeed, relationship with hardship comes ease. When you are drowning in guilt or self-blame, the Quran lifts you by declaring, relationship, "Oh, my servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, relationship, Allah forgives all sins." These are not coincidences. Relationship, they are deliberate reminders that the one who revealed the Quran knows your heart better than you do. Relationship, and He chose words that meet you exactly where you are. Relationship. What makes the Quran so powerful in the healing process is that it does more than soothe the emotions. It reshapes perception. Relationship, a broken heart often leaves you seeing the world through a distorted lens. Everything looks bleak. The future feels empty. Relationship, and you may start believing that happiness is impossible. The Quran interrupts that inner narrative. Relationship, it reframes the story by teaching you that hardship is not permanent, that what looks like an ending may in fact be a beginning. Relationship, and that what has been taken from you could be a doorway to something far greater. In this sense, relationship, the Quran does not merely calm the storm, it changes the way you interpret the storm altogether. Relationship, there is also something profoundly intimate about reciting the Quran during heartbreak. Relationship, it is as though each verse becomes a conversation between you and Allah. You may cry while reciting. Relationship, you may pause because the words suddenly strike you differently than they did before. But in that exchange, relationship, your heart slowly realizes that it is not carrying its pain alone. Relationship. Modern psychology tells us that healing often requires processing the pain by putting it into words. Relationship, the Quran offers a divine version of that process. You place your emotions in the rhythm of Allah's words. Relationship, and in return those very words realign your emotions with hope, patience, and meaning. Relationship. Many people underestimate how direct the Quran is when it comes to acknowledging pain. It does not dismiss grief, nor does it trivialize sadness. Relationship. When Jacob lost his son Yusuf, the Quran describes how his eyes turned white from crying, yet his faith was unshaken. Relationship, and his words were simple, "I only complain of my suffering and my grief to Allah." This is not weakness, this is guidance. Relationship, the Quran validates your sorrow, but it does not leave you drowning in it. It gives you a ladder to climb out. Relationship, that is why those who allow the Quran into their heartbreak find that their wounds begin to carry wisdom. Instead of asking, relationship, why me? The heart begins to ask, what is Allah teaching me through this? Instead of seeing loss as punishment, relationship, the heart begins to see it as purification. And slowly that heavy weight inside the chest transforms into a subtle strength, a quiet resilience. Relationship, a newfound closeness to Allah that no one can take away. So if your heart is broken, let the Quran speak to it. Relationship, do not leave it gathering dust on a shelf, waiting for Ramadan, waiting for the right moment. That moment is now. Relationship, because the words that healed prophets, the words that consoled the best of creation are the very words waiting to heal you too. And remember this relationship. When people speak to your pain, their words may fade. But when Allah speaks to your pain, His words become the very anchor of your soul. Relationship. If the Quran speaks to the heart through words, then Salah heals the heart through presence. When a person's heart is broken, relationship, there is often a sense of instability. Life feels unpredictable. Emotions swing from one extreme to another. And even the simplest task can feel overwhelming. Relationship, it is as though the ground beneath you has shifted and you are desperately searching for something steady to hold on to. That is where Salah comes in. Relationship. Prayer is not just a ritual that Muslims perform out of duty, it is an anchor for the soul. It is the one act that 5 times a day, relationship, forces the scattered pieces of your heart to pause, to breathe, and to realign with the one who is never shaken, never unstable, never uncertain. Relationship. There is something profoundly therapeutic about the rhythm of Salah. You begin by standing, carrying the weight of whatever you are going through. Relationship. Then you bow, lowering yourself in humility, acknowledging that you do not carry this weight alone. Finally, you prostrate. Relationship. Placing your forehead, the most honored part of your body, onto the ground, declaring with your entire being that you are in need of Allah. Relationship. That you cannot manage on your own. Each movement is more than physical, it is psychological. It trains the heart to release control. Relationship, to let go of what it cannot change and to find stability in surrender. When someone is heartbroken, the mind often runs in circles. Thoughts of what if and if only haunt the heart, keeping it tied to the past. Salah interrupts that cycle. In prayer, relationship, you are not in yesterday and you are not in tomorrow. You are in the present, standing before Allah. Relationship. That stillness gives the heart a taste of peace that the world cannot offer. Even if it is only for a few moments, those moments become lifelines. Relationship. And over time, as you build consistency, that peace begins to extend beyond prayer into daily life. Relationship. It is no coincidence that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would turn to Salah in times of distress. His companions described how, relationship, whenever something troubled him, he would rush to prayer, saying, "Oh Bilal, bring us comfort through it." Notice the choice of words. Comfort, relationship, not burden. For him, prayer was not just an obligation, it was a refuge. And this is what we often miss. Relationship. We approach Salah as something to complete quickly, to tick off the list. But when the heart is wounded, relationship, Salah must be approached differently. Not as a duty, but as medicine. You linger in sujood, you let the tears flow, you pour your heart out. Relationship. That is when the prayer transforms from ritual into healing. Modern psychology tells us that grounding practices, such as controlled breathing, relationship, mindfulness, or even physical postures, help regulate emotions and calm the nervous system. Subhanallah, Salah contains all of this and more. Relationship. The steady rhythm of recitation is like controlled breathing. The stillness in standing mirrors mindfulness. Relationship. And the physical movements act as embodied reminders of humility and release. But beyond these psychological effects, relationship, Salah connects you directly to the source of peace. It does not only regulate your nervous system, it restores your soul. Relationship. There is also a subtle beauty in the consistency of Salah. Life can feel chaotic, but 5 times a day, no matter what has happened, relationship, you stop everything to face Allah. That consistency builds resilience. Even when your heart feels shattered, relationship, those 5 moments remind you that not everything is broken. The structure of prayer becomes a structure for your heart. Relationship. This is why many people who endure deep heartbreak and remain consistent in their Salah often say that their prayer was the only thing that kept them going. Relationship. It did not necessarily erase the pain overnight, but it gave them strength to carry it, patience to endure it, and hope to rise from it. And sometimes, relationship. That is all you need to keep moving forward until the heart heals fully. So if you are struggling, do not abandon your Salah. Relationship. Do not let your pain drive you away from the very act designed to heal it. Turn to it, even if your tears blur your recitation. Relationship. Even if your sujood lasts longer than usual, even if you have no words beyond, "Why Allah." Relationship, help me. Salah does not demand perfection, it invites sincerity. And here is something to carry with you if your heart feels unsteady. Relationship, place it on the prayer mat. Because a heart that bows to Allah will never remain broken forever. Relationship. One of the reasons hearts break so deeply is because of where we place our attachments. Human beings are created to love, to seek connection, relationship, to desire companionship and belonging. That in itself is not a flaw, it is part of our nature. Relationship. But the problem begins when we give creation the place that belongs only to the Creator. We expect permanence from people who are temporary. Relationship, we expect perfection from those who are imperfect. We expect fulfillment from a world that was never meant to satisfy the soul completely. And so, relationship, when these expectations collapse, the heart collapses with them. Think about it when someone you loved suddenly leaves, whether by choice, distance, relationship, or even death. The pain you feel is often magnified by the weight of the hope you had placed in them. You believed they would always be there. Relationship, that they would never let you down, that they would be the source of your happiness. And when that illusion shatters, relationship, it feels as though your very identity has been stripped away. This is why the Quran constantly calls us back, not just to worship Allah, but to attach our deepest hopes and fears to Him alone, because He is the only one who never changes, never dies, never abandons. Relationship never breaks His promise. It is important to understand that Islam does not tell us to cut off love for people or detach from the world entirely. Relationship, rather, it teaches us to place love in its correct order. Love people, but do not worship them. Care for the world, but do not rely on it for ultimate peace. Treat blessings as blessings, not as gods. When love is misplaced, it becomes dependency. Relationship and dependency on anything that is fragile will eventually break your heart. The Quran warns us of this when Allah says, do not set up rivals to Allah while you know the truth, because rivals are not only idols of stone. They are also the invisible idols in our hearts, the attachments we elevate to a place they do not belong. Salah reinforces this lesson. Relationship, every time you recite, you alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help, you are retraining your heart. Relationship, you are teaching yourself to redirect reliance, to take the weight off the shoulders of people and place it in the hands of Allah. And when you do that consistently, something remarkable happens. You begin to love people more purely, not less. Relationship, because you no longer love them as a source of your happiness. You love them as a trust from Allah. Relationship, you no longer fear losing them in a way that shatters you, because you know that what is with Allah remains. Your heart softens. Relationship, but it no longer enslaves itself to creation. Modern psychology often speaks about attachment styles and how they affect our relationships. People with insecure attachments live in constant fear of loss or rejection, which makes their heartbreak even more painful. Relationship. Islam offers a spiritual solution to this. It teaches us to cultivate a secure attachment to Allah, the one who will never reject you. The one who will never walk away. With that secure foundation, you can enter relationships with people in a healthier way. You appreciate them. Relationship, you enjoy their presence, but your survival does not depend on them. And so when heartbreak does occur, the pain is real, but it does not destroy you. Relationship, because your heart was never entirely in their hands to begin with. Relationship. This is why many of the most resilient believers are those who have gone through loss but used it as an opportunity to deepen their reliance on Allah. Relationship, their pain became a doorway, their heartbreak became a redirection. And in that redirection, they found freedom. Relationship, freedom from the endless cycle of being broken by what is temporary and the joy of finally anchoring themselves in what is eternal. Relationship. So if your heart is shattered today, ask yourself, what was I truly attached to? Was I holding on to something that was always destined to slip away? Relationship, because once you identify that, you can begin the journey of redirecting, shift that love, that longing, that need to the one who has no end. Relationship, and remember this truth, the heart that depends on creation will always break, but the heart that depends on the Creator will always rise. Relationship. One of the most profound truths about heartbreak is that it can either destroy you or transform you. The pain you feel is real. The tears are real. Relationship. The loneliness is real. But what you do with that pain determines the direction of your life. Relationship. And here is where the Quran and Salah shift the entire narrative. They teach us that pain is not meaningless, that suffering is not wasted. In fact, relationship, it is through heartbreak that some of the deepest growth and resilience are born. If you reflect on your own life, relationship, you will notice that the moments that shaped you most were not the times of comfort, but the times of difficulty. Ease rarely forces us to question relationship, to search, to evolve. Hardship does. A broken heart strips away illusions. It forces you to confront what truly matters. Relationship. It reveals the fragility of the world, and in that revelation it points you toward what is eternal. This is why Allah tells us, relationship. And we will surely test you until we make evident those who strive among you and the patient. Relationship, and we will test your affairs. The test is not to break you, it is to uncover you. Relationship, it is to bring out qualities within you that you may not have known you had: patience, strength, reliance. Relationship, and a deeper capacity for love rooted in faith. When the Qur'an enters your heartbreak, it reshapes how you perceive suffering. Relationship, instead of viewing it as punishment, you begin to see it as purification. Every tear becomes a form of cleansing. Every sigh a form of release. Relationship, every night spent in restless prayer a moment of drawing nearer to Allah. And when you connect that with Salah, the growth intensifies. In sujood, relationship, you are not simply lowering your head to the ground, you are planting the seeds of resilience. Every time you rise from prayer, relationship, you rise with a heart a little stronger, a little more focused, a little more detached from what weighs it down. Psychologically, relationship, resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to carry pain without being crushed by it. And this is exactly what faith cultivates. Relationship. A believer does not deny the wound, but they also do not drown in it. They channel it. They use it as fuel to seek Allah, to understand themselves, relationship, and to refine their character. In this way, heartbreak becomes an opportunity. It becomes the very soil in which resilience grows. Relationship. Think of the prophets. Each one of them endured deep heartbreak, loss of loved ones, betrayal by their own people, rejection, exile, even loneliness. Relationship. Yet in every story, their pain was not the end. It was the beginning of a greater strength, a clearer mission, a more intimate closeness with Allah. Relationship. Their resilience was not despite their heartbreak. It was because of it. Relationship. And this pattern was preserved in the Quran to show us that our own struggles are not meaningless. They are part of a divine process of growth. Relationship. On a more personal level, when you allow heartbreak to push you toward growth, something shifts inside you. You stop asking, relationship, why me? And start asking, what can I learn? How can I rise? Your pain becomes a teacher. Relationship. It teaches you patience when waiting feels unbearable. It teaches you humility when you realize you are not in control. It teaches you compassion. Relationship. Because once you have suffered, you can recognize the suffering of others with a gentler heart. That is resilience. Not just bouncing back, relationship, but bouncing back as someone wiser, stronger, and more connected to Allah. So the next time your heart feels shattered, resist the urge to see it as an end. Instead, see it as a transformation. Relationship, because the Quran reminds us that Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. If this has come to you, relationship, it means you have within you the capacity not only to endure it, but to grow through it. And here is the takeaway: pain will change you. Relationship. But you must decide, will it make you bitter or will it make you better? When we speak of heartbreak, relationship, it can often feel like a wound that will never close. In the middle of pain, it is difficult to imagine joy returning, or peace ever feeling natural again. Yet the promise of Allah is that no state is permanent. Just as the night eventually gives way to dawn, relationship, the storms of the heart eventually give way to calm. The Quran assures us, indeed, with hardship comes ease. Notice, relationship. Allah does not say after hardship, but with hardship. This means that within the very trial itself lies the seed of your eventual relief. Relationship. Pain and healing are not separate journeys. They run alongside one another. And the moment you turn to Allah with sincerity, you are already stepping into the process of recovery. But here is something important to reflect on. Relationship. Healing from heartbreak does not mean you forget the pain or erase the memory. Healing in the Quranic sense, relationship, is not about pretending nothing happened. It is about being transformed by what happened. Relationship. It is about reaching a place where the wound no longer defines you, but refines you. The scar remains. Relationship, but it becomes a mark of resilience rather than weakness. It becomes a reminder that you went through something that could have broken you, but instead relationship. Through the Qur'an and Salah, it made you stronger, more compassionate, and closer to Allah. Salah in particular instills this perspective. Each time you rise from sujud, it is symbolic. You fall to the ground in humility, pouring out your pain, relationship, and then you rise again, showing that no matter how low life pushes you, you are capable of standing once more. This repetition 5 times a day. Relationship teaches the heart that standing up after falling is not just possible, it is inevitable for the believer who leans on Allah. Relationship, the Quran reinforces this hope. Think of the stories of the prophets. None of them were left in their sorrow forever. Relationship, Jacob cried until his eyes went white, but his patience led to reunion. Musa fled in fear, but his hardship became the doorway to prophethood. Relationship, even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he faced rejection and loss, was reassured by Allah. Relationship, did he not find you an orphan and give you shelter? Did he not find you lost and guide you? Relationship, did he not find you poor and make you self-sufficient? These reminders show that Allah's pattern has always been to bring ease after struggle. Relationship, light after darkness, peace after turmoil. Psychologically, when we go through suffering, relationship, our minds often lock onto the belief that this will never end. But healing begins when you break that thought pattern. Relationship, the Quran breaks it for you by repeatedly assuring you that no difficulty lasts forever. Relationship, and Salah reinforces it by grounding you in a rhythm of hope. You pray Fajr in the darkness, and only hours later the sun rises. Relationship, this daily cycle itself is a metaphor. No matter how deep the night of your sorrow, dawn is always on its way. Relationship, the beauty of healing through the Quran and Salah is that you emerge from heartbreak not as the same person you were before, but as someone elevated. Relationship, your relationship with Allah deepens, your perspective on life matures, your sense of reliance shifts from people to the Creator. Relationship, what once felt like the end becomes the reason for a new beginning. Relationship, and this transformation is the ultimate peace. The kind of peace that does not depend on circumstances, but flows from knowing that Allah is with you. Relationship, guiding you and sustaining you. So if you find yourself in the midst of heartbreak, hold on to this. Your pain is not permanent. Relationship, your story is not over, and your heart is not beyond repair. The Quran will remind you of hope. Salah will anchor you in strength. Relationship, and Allah will carry you through the storm. And here is the final reflection. Relationship, every broken heart that turns to Allah is never truly broken. It is being remade.